Overcame alcoholism and my wife wanted a divorce, but after months of sharing a bed without intimacy, we are now staying together. Me, 27 male, and my wife, 31F, hit a rough spot and have been separated at home for almost a year now. It was largely my fault. After a big setback and my father's death, I fell into alcoholism and despair, stopped taking care of myself and neglected her when not emotionally abused her. Eventually she had enough, and after I refused therapy for the nth time, consulted a divorce lawyer and drafted papers. I signed them off right away, but she didn't, keeping them in her room. She knew I was in a hard spot financially, so she said she'd wait for me to come into my inheritance so I could move out, and then she'd sign and file for a no-fault divorce. Not from the US, in our country you can do this. After 2 months sleeping in my home office, I got sick of it and stopped drinking, dived into work and overall did chores around the house and helped her out. When she commented on my change, I boasted I was doing it for myself and not for her, and she agreed because while she wanted me out, she still cared for me. Over the last months she also occasionally asked me to sleep in the bed with her and not in my home office. Nothing intimate happened, but still she would spoon me. This until last evening. We had gotten closer and closer, especially over the holidays, and I told her that what I said was not true. I had changed and stopped drinking to show her at first, but then I really wanted to turn over a new leaf and be a good soon-to-be ex-husband. She went to her room and picked the divorce papers, setting them in front of me. She asked what we should do with those then, so I ripped them and she yelled out a big yes. And then hugged me. So, I guess we won't be getting divorced. So I ripped the divorce papers in front of her, to her delight. However, soon after the realization that I had planned my whole new year around the fact I was getting divorced set in, and that the decision of reconciliation actually brought me uncertainty and anxiety. My wife noticed that, and we had a number of heart-to-heart about this. There was talking, laughs and even tears during those talks, tears of the good, liberatory kind. My wife rarely if almost never cries, she's the stoic type, but seeing her break into tears, sobbing how much I hurt her and she still loves me, was like getting stabbed in the heart. I realized the pain I caused her is still fresh and burning. She unloaded all the pain and turmoil I had inflicted upon her with my past behavior, and admitted she felt both proud and bitter about my changes in the last year. Proud because I turned my life around, bitter because I had accepted the divorce so quickly as if she was what was holding me back, and she wasn't worth my best self. However, she was also angry at herself because she was already reconsidering the divorce back in June, but didn't say anything or gave me signals because she feared I'd revert to my old behavior, or would rebuff her. In the meantime, I had started to renovate my father's old villa, well, more of a big house than a proper mansion, to move in this year, and gave her only breadcrumbs information about it, and she was both positively surprised to learn about all the work I am putting into it, and again a bit bitter that I didn't tell her anything and all my projects were designed without her in mind, as if she was just an already fading memory. The possibility of an amicable divorce has been brought up again, but she wanted 2 clear answers. 1. Was there another woman? 2. Did I actually stop loving her? The answer to both questions is no. I told her I did suffer about losing her in our marriage, but I didn't want to be the ex-husband who made fleeting promises, hound, ed her down and made a nuisance of herself. It's the least I could have done after making her suffer so much, and also thank her for her infinite kindness. I just worked, did my best to be a good soon-to-be ex-husband, paid my utilities and wanted to pay her a rent for the room she allocated me in her home, which she always refused even when I insisted. Eventually arrived the $1 million question, do we want this marriage to work? Answer, yes. It won't be easy and there's still a lot of work to be done. We agreed to take baby steps and have already booked couple therapy for this week. I am already doing individual therapy, but now she'll be looking for individual therapy for herself as well. In the last week, we went on some quiet dates, walks and a short hiking trip. I also made a peace offering of sorts by asking her if she wanted to participate in my renovation project of my father's house, give her input and ideas. She was enthusiastic about it. She likes gardening, but her property has no garden and she makes do with the potted plants on the balcony, while my father's house has a large garden and a big plot of overgrown land behind it. She said we will be busting our backs, but it will be worth it, and I think that working together on a shared project will help reestablishing our bond. So that's where we stand now. The road is still long and difficult, but I'm hopeful. I wish to sincerely thank all the Redditor who gave me their insights, comments, praises and criticism. Yes, I took your advice and couldn't thank you enough for it, my friend. It brought out an enthusiasm I had not seen in so long. Thank you, but it's still too soon. Yes, it would have been foolish to think everything would have been fine right away. It's not like in movies where they make passionate love and are lovey-dovey all of a sudden. There's been distance for a year and hurt on both sides, and it will take time to heal and be close to each other again. Little changed in the last week. We had our first couple counseling session and her first therapy session. We laid down the framework for our marriage. Went out on some dates and overall spent quality time together. We still haven't been intimate. She tried to initiate once, but I gently turned it into cuddling and talking. Another issue is that I have some difficulties sleeping in the same bed as her, not because I have something against her, but I'm so used in sleeping in my own bed that often I sleep 1 or 2 hours with her, wake up and head to my home office/bedroom and sleep there. I wake up earlier and fix breakfast for her. She's happy about it, but mentioned once I didn't sleep with her. Do those things take time? I believe so, but I'm a bit scared I'm giving the impression I gave up on our marriage. I believe it will take months and lots of work to get back at how we were, while she thinks the process should be quicker and I'm being too hard on myself and her. I have been sober for over a year, and got sober after she served me divorce papers. She decided to try to reconcile last January, and although things have been not easy to say the least, we still sleep separately, I don't feel secure enough to have sex with her, and we do lots of individual and couple therapy, we somehow are managing. However, despite what she says, I can't get over the shame that I have been a useless and abusive drunkard and she probably remembers me as such, and the shame and guilt become unbearable. I work as a civil servant, in family services, ironically enough, and recently I got moved to the cabinet in the provincial government, even had a photo shaking hands with our Prime Minister. My wife picked this photo and put it on Facebook for everyone to see, writing how proud she was. I do think she genuinely believes this, and I'm happy, but I also think she's too eager to rug sweep the past and our problems aren't fixed at all. I still feel lots of shame and guilt towards her, every time I look at her, and at a certain point even looked forward to divorce, but she insists I am doing all the right things, and if I love her, divorce would be something I'll end up regretting. I just feel we will never overcome this, and although many moments are happy and I do my best to give her quality time, cook her favorite dishes and get her gifts, I can't help but feel hopeless and even alone in my feelings. She wants for us to move on, but while for her it might be easy to forgive me, for me it's not easy to let go of the shame of what I was to her. My therapist says I have to deal with it on my own as I caused all this, and I agree, but I don't know how to move forward. Is there something I can do, or should I learn to accept this and live with it? Maybe with time it will get better? After all, a year sober is almost nothing. She had every right to file for divorce because of my alcoholism, she didn't deserve that. In the meantime I was sick of it, so I stopped drinking, focused on my career and on renovating my father's house. She wanted to reconcile upon seeing those changes, and I agreed. But now I'm realizing I had internalized the divorce in my life plans. I plan my new essay on life about it. I can't see myself being intimate with her. She tried a couple of times and I gently turned her down. As a gesture of goodwill I asked her if she wanted to participate in my father's home renovation project, and she accepted with enthusiasm. She always wanted a garden. Now I'm regretting it because that was supposed to be my retreat from the world and I will have to share it with her. I said all of this to her. She was upset but also understanding. In her opinion, part of the fault is hers. She never communicated about reconciliation and sprung it up on me, and as a result what should have been a happy thing became a source of stress and anxiety for me. My therapist and her are saying this is my depression talking, but I'm not so sure. Are we truly done? UPD 82. Not really an update, just a new development. I showed her the last thread. She's reading it on her phone. She said she already knew many of the things I wrote, including the comments about jam and flowers. She said if she knew the anguish a reconciliation so soon would cause, she wouldn't have offered it and is regretting it. She thanks everyone for the kind words and appreciations made towards her. At the same time she got upset because in her opinion I put things worse than they are, so either I exaggerated them, or I've been keeping my true feelings from her, and this is a big problem. For example, she says I'm not as cold as I'm making myself up to be, and that she's not as pushy as I make her to be, and in fact she's been giving me lots of space. She says I'm doing a weird self-sabotage here. She says I'm trying to get her to leave me, but it won't happen, and if I really want to end I have to do it myself. She doesn't agree with it, but if I want to move out she won't oppose it. She wasn't angry, just very numb. Things are not easy, but overall they are going well, both in therapy and everyday life. There's still some issues in getting intimate, but we are getting there. Sometimes though the shame and guilt become too much and I wonder why is she even staying with me? Maybe sunk costs? I do my best, little gifts, dates, cooking her favorite dishes, picking up chores, but to me it always feels like I could do more. Sometimes she notices this and says to take it easy. She says I try too hard sometimes and it comes off as artificial. She likes that now I'm all smiles, always shaved, well dressed and gentlemanly with her, but joke that sometimes I look like the president of her country of origin. I'm doing my best though, even at the cost of overdoing it. We are doing therapy, but so far it's still very early. I was very apathic about everything, so now I try my best to be enthusiastic about things. She usually likes it, but once I made a dance step, she laughed but also said what the hell was that? I have been sober for over a year, and got sober after she served me divorce papers. She decided to try to reconcile last January, and although things have been not easy to say the least, we still sleep separately, I don't feel secure enough to have sex with her, and we do lots of individual and couple therapy, we somehow are managing. However, despite what she says, I can't get over the shame that I have been a useless and abusive drunkard and she probably remembers me as such, and the shame and guilt become unbearable. I work as a civil servant, in family services, ironically enough, and recently I got moved to the cabinet in the provincial government, even had a photo shaking hands with our Prime Minister. My wife picked this photo and put it on Facebook for everyone to see, writing how proud she was. I do think she genuinely believes this, and I'm happy, but I also think she's too eager to rug sweep the past and our problems aren't fixed at all. I still feel lots of shame and guilt towards her every time I look at her, and at a certain point even looked forward to divorce, but she insists I am doing all the right things, and if I love her, divorce would be something I'll end up regretting. I just feel we will never overcome this, and although many moments are happy and I do my best to give her quality time, cook her favorite dishes and get her gifts, I can't help but feel hopeless and even alone in my feelings. She wants for us to move on, but while for her it might be easy to forgive me, for me it's not easy to let go of the shame of what I was to her. My therapist says I have to deal with it on my own as I caused all this, and I agree, but I don't know how to move forward. Is there something I can do, or should I learn to accept this and live with it? Maybe with time it will get better? After all, a year sober is almost nothing. Somewhat. She told me to get a grip in those feelings or I'll end up self-sabotaging and ruining everything. Update 3. 2 months later, things are going lukewarmly well. Talks of reinitiating divorce proceedings have stopped, and although we still sleep separately and have no intimacy, my issues, working on it with my therapist, we are doing well. Sometimes I feel I can't get over the shame that I have been a useless and abusive drunkard, and she probably remembers me as such, and the shame and guilt become unbearable, but then it passes a bit. Basically, we are starting over, dating, doing bonding activities, I get her gifts and surprises. She admitted she thought things would go faster, but in the end agrees with me that after a year separated things can't just get back as before. She also says I am too hard on myself, but I think she's the one being too indulgent. But apart from those difficulties, we are doing fine. Basically, we are starting over, dating, doing bonding activities. Thank you. I have hope, but sometimes I feel like we are stuck or that we are delaying the inevitable. Although I feel like this only occasionally. Update 4. Things are going well, reasonably so. Still having issues in the bedroom, but I am working on them to try and be a good husband, at least on that aspect. Last week I received a work assignment in the capital of our country. It's a 2-month-long assignment and I'll be provided state housing. She is excited about this and already wants to pack her bags. I have my doubts about her coming along for her own sake. She has friends and family here, me not so much, cut them all off and not interested in reconnecting, her support system as a whole. She has reasons and loved ones to stay here, unlike me. She won't budge, since we are married it's her full right to come along, and since she has her own e-commerce business she can manage it remotely. Plus she wants us to get back home every weekend. I know better than dying on this hill, so I'll be leaving with her. Now on to second story. Agreed to have coffee with my father who cheated on my brother with his wife, and now my brother is furious with me. I, 27 male, have 2 siblings, my sister Cass, 30F, and my brother Mark, 32 male. Our parents divorced when I was 10 and we split time between the both of them. Cass was always closer to our dad and she has always disliked Mark to the point of claiming things about him which are hard to believe. However, as much as she's disliked him, she's always loved me. 5 years ago, it turned out that Mark's wife Jane was cheating on him with our father. It obviously caused chaos. Cass sided with our dad, Mark moved in with our mom, and I sided with him. But even though I sided with him, I've always kept in contact with Cass. And Mark is fine and alright with that. I didn't see my dad again until this Friday when he and Jane dropped Cass off at our mom's for Mother's Day. I was outside walking home and my dad noticed me and I don't know why, but I agreed to have coffee with them. It was a really tense conversation between us and I confirmed that he wouldn't be invited to my wedding and I didn't know if I wanted to get to know his and Jane's kids, and he even told me I did the right thing choosing Mark. It was weird, but he dropped me off after about half an hour, but Mark saw him do that from the window and since then he's been cold and snippy with me. Was I the off for talking to my dad? Update 1. So, I didn't plan on updating but things really escalated. My brother Mark had a meltdown where he ranted at mom for not caring more about what our dad did to his life, then at Cass for always halfway associating with him just for mom's sake, and then he kicked me in the stomach and I literally fell through a table like it was WWE or something. Cass wound up saying that his behavior is why Jane left him and she's better off with our dad and called the cops on him. I feel the worst for our mom because she just wanted a good Mother's Day and I feel like our issues with each other just ruined her weekend. I did go to the hospital but only because Cass begged me to. I'm perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with me. I didn't press charges on Mark, I just feel really bad for him. I feel like life's dealt him a pretty garbage hand and there's no point in me making things worse. But Mark did leave, he moved out and I don't know where he is now. He only talked to our mom before he left and she hasn't told me what it was about. Mom, Cass and I had a big conversation about things and Cass admitted that she doesn't love or like Mark and brought up other incidents from when they were teenagers and that she doesn't trust that he wasn't trying to spy on her. She admitted that he was right, that she only associated with him for mom's sake and that she's glad that Jane is with our dad. That felt really rough to hear and it made our mom cry a lot. As for our dad? Cass made it clear that she's not going to stop seeing him and Jane and told me that while she wants me to get to know our little siblings, she's never going to force me to and she'll understand if I never do. I felt like I had to post this because I needed to vent. I wish there was some resolution to all this, that we could be a family again, but I'm angry and frustrated that there is none and it's like there never will be. Update 2. Anyway, to give an update if y'all want it, Mark has pretty much gone off the deep end. Last week, he messaged our mom to clear out his room because he's not coming back and to just throw it all away. As she was doing this, Cass came to visit and decided to help, and they found a USB in his closet. I wasn't home for this, but apparently Cass argued with my mom until she let her open it, and there was like a cavalcade of photos of her in there. Nothing inappropriate from what my mom told me, but it made Cass have a breakdown and she spent time in the hospital psych ward. She got out a few days ago and I've talked to her, but I haven't seen her because our dad picked her up and she stayed with him. But on Sunday, she put up a big Instagram post praising our dad and Jane and mocking Mark and saying the worst stuff about him. That somehow made its way to him wherever he's gone, and he came crashing home yesterday because of it. He literally drunk drove his Prius into my truck when trying to park in the driveway. And thankfully I was with my fiance's family because according to mom, he demanded to see me so he could kick my ass because now he's blaming me for all of this. And to be honest, I kind of am too. Everything was mostly fine until I got in that car with my dad, and it's like everyone's spiraling now. Even me a little bit, if I'm being honest, but now, I mostly just feel bad for our mom because this whole thing has got her feeling so down and awful and inadequate about herself. Update 3. Everything has gone to hell. About 3 weeks ago Mark got arrested for assaulting Cass. Apparently he went to her place and she let him in because he said he was going to apologize and wanted to talk about the pictures, and then he did it. I don't know why she met with him or let her in without me or somebody else there with her. I don't know how any of her neighbors didn't hear or try to stop him, but when he was done with it he apparently called the cops on himself. I still don't know everything and I don't want to know everything, but apparently when the cops came and arrested him he was drunk and forcing her to spoon with him on the floor, and he ranted to them about how they belonged together. Apparently she was pretty much like not moving or talking or anything, like she was dead until our dad came to her and then she got back to normal. Just the thought makes me want to throw up and punch something and kill him, and I don't know. I wish that I'd been there with her and maybe I'd have been able to stop it, or maybe he would have only hurt me and she could have gotten away, or that if I'd had her with me and my fiancé that night no thing would have happened. I don't know why he called the cops on himself either. There's just so much that doesn't make sense. I don't know how this could have happened. Cass was in the hospital for about a week. She didn't want to stay any longer and started screaming till they'd let me take her. She didn't stay with me, she had me drop her off at our dad's and she's stayed with him since then. Hell, at the hospital she was acting like a little girl almost with him and called him Dada and Daddy even. She visits me and my fiancé almost every day, and it's like she knows how upset I am about everything, and she tells me that it's not my job to protect her, that she's my older sister and it's her job to protect me, that I did nothing wrong, and by being there for her now I'm doing all I can do. Like, I feel like she should hate me because maybe if I'd asked she stay with me after Mark drove drunk or after he hit me things would have been different. But something so terrible happened, and whenever she sees me she's looking out for me. I feel like I'm being selfish and horrible about it all. I've offered to let her stay with me and my fiancé, but she wants to stay with our dad because she feels like he can protect her, and obviously I can't. I mean I didn't, and I'm why this shit even happened, and all I can do about it is post to here. I don't really feel bad for my mom anymore. She's visited Mark a lot of times and feels like there must be a way that he's innocent. She straight up said that there must be a way. Cass told me to give mom time and to think about how hard it must be for her, but I just feel so ashamed that she said that. I know she just doesn't want to believe that he did what he did, but he did do it. There's been people messaging me asking how Cass saved my life and my fiancé's life. So that I don't have to repeat it again, for me, she donated bone marrow. I know people will say it's obvious that a sister would do that, but what matters is that she did do it, that there was no thinking about it, and that she did it. For my fiancé, she was walking down a crosswalk and Cass was lagging behind for some reason. I don't know because I wasn't there, and apparently some speeding car was going to hit her, but Cass sprinted and tackled her forward and got her out of the way. And this is the person that I couldn't protect. I guess everyone who messaged and called me spineless and an enabler and all those other things was right.